There are moments in military history when silence speaks louder than orders, and a single act of dignity dismantles years of tyranny. This is one such moment. In the final months of a long and bitter campaign, a regiment known as the 14th Iron Division prepared for inspection. Dust hung over the camp, weapons gleamed under the harsh sun, and tension rode the air like smoke. Among the lines of weary soldiers stood a new recruit, barely 20, named Elias Ward. Quiet, precise, and unshakably composed, Elias was the kind of man who spoke little but listened deeply. His captain, however, was a different breed. Captain Harlan Drake, decorated, feared, and arrogant beyond measure, believed respect was earned through fear. To him, the army was not a brotherhood, but a throne. And on this day, he sought to remind everyone who sat upon it. As the inspection began, Drake's boots struck the ground like hammer blows. His eyes scanned his men not for readiness, but for weakness. When he stopped before Elias, the camp seemed to hold its breath. "You," Drake barked, "your rifle's not polished. Drop to the mud. Kiss the ground that holds real soldiers." It was not a command for discipline. It was an act of humiliation. Elias looked up calmly. He neither trembled nor saluted. And in that moment, under the weight of hundreds of watching eyes, history quietly began to turn. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The wind itself seemed to wait. Then Elias stepped forward, one pace only. He stood straight, his uniform dusty, but his gaze steady. His voice, when it came, was soft enough to cut through the silence like steel. "Captain," he said, "a soldier kneels only to his duty, not to another man's pride." The words hit harder than any gunfire. A murmur swept through the ranks. Drake's face reddened. He reached for his pistol, fury trembling in his hand. But before the weapon could clear its holster, Elias snapped to attention and saluted. Perfect, precise, unshakable. The gesture froze the captain in place. The entire camp went dead quiet. Not out of fear, but out of awe. Drake's hand fell limp. His authority, once absolute, had been shattered by a single disciplined act of courage. The silence that followed was unbearable. No one dared breathe. Even the flags above seemed to hang motionless. Drake's eyes darted to his officers, seeking validation. None came. They looked away, ashamed. His voice, once thunderous, broke into a trembling whisper. You dared defy a superior officer?" Elias didn't flinch. "I follow the code, sir, and the code commands honor before obedience." For a moment, the captain stood there, stripped not of his uniform, but of his illusion of power. His rank could no longer shield him from the truth now exposed before all. A senior colonel, drawn by the commotion, arrived at the scene. He surveyed the frozen tableau, the trembling captain, the resolute recruit, and the silent men watching history unfold. "What's happened here?" the colonel asked. Drake stammered for words. Elias simply saluted and replied, "Only a lesson, sir, that rank means nothing without respect." The colonel studied the young man for a long moment. Then he turned to the gathered soldiers and said quietly, "Remember this day. Discipline is strength. but dignity is power. He ordered Elias back into line and dismissed the captain from command, effective immediately. As Drake walked away, stripped of his pride, the men of the 14th stood taller than they had in months, not because a captain had fallen, but because a soldier had reminded them what standing truly meant. And from that day, Elias Ward was no longer the new recruit. He was the man who silenced arrogance without a single shout. Only truth. Years passed. The war ended. The Iron Division was disbanded and scattered across the country. But wherever those soldiers went, the story traveled with them, told in barracks, whispered in training camps, shared around fires in faraway lands. They called it the Day of the Silent Salute. Elias Ward never sought recognition. He never published his story or wore his defiance like a medal. He lived quietly, training younger recruits, teaching them not just how to fight, but how to stand. When asked about that day, he always gave the same reply. A soldier's greatest weapon is not the rifle in his hands, but the conscience in his chest. Captain Drake's name faded from memory, buried under the weight of his own arrogance. But the name Elias Ward lived on, not as a hero, but as a reminder that even in the heart of command, integrity can bring down tyranny, and that true strength lies not in obedience, but in self-respect. Because sometimes history is not written by those who shout the loudest, but by the one who stands in silence and does not bow.